All right, welcome to the Jordan Talks Jiujitsu podcast with hosts Uke Mike and Joey. We got a great episode for you. This is episode 3, and we're going to start off with some viewer questions coming from Mike for the first one. And let's hear it.
When do you think somebody's ready to compete? What criteria do they meet?
I think it's really different for like every person, especially if you haven't competed before and you're a white belt. The white belt divisions are like a mixed bag. Like you never really know what you're going to get. You could get someone who's been training. Like I know my first competition at white belt, I've been training for like a month and a half, and I figured let's just give it a try. Didn't go well, as you can imagine. But you also get people who've been training, 2.5 years and are on that borderline for blue belt. So I don't think the right way is to like wait until you're like, I know I'm going to win. There's no way I lose, because you really don't know what you're going to get into. I think if you're having really competitive roles with people your size and belt level in your gym, give it a try just to see. Like you never know, you might do well and you might not, but either way, it's going to give you something that you need to work on.
I learned much more from losing my first tournament than I did winning my second tournament. I learned what I needed to work on and what I needed to overcome for my next goal.
Yeah, I mean, you win and you learn, right? And I 100% agree with that quote. I mean, I whenever someone loses, it's one of my students, there's always so much to pick apart to help them improve, because it's always like little things, not dealing with the underhook, letting people grab your head. I say this stuff all the time because those are the mistakes people make, not letting people get inside position.
I think it makes a big difference making those mistakes and losing in a tournament compared to the gym, because the stakes are high. Usually when people are competing, they want to win. Like you usually don't compete if you want to lose, but when you want to win and there's something on the line and you make those mistakes, when you look back or your coach tells you like, yeah, this is why you didn't win that tournament, it's really easy for a lot of people to go, well, I'm not going to do that again because I don't want to lose in a competition again. So that mistake's really easy to fix. Whereas things you make in the gym, if you have 6-7 rounds a night, it's easy to kind of throw small mistakes away and say, well, I just won't do that next time, and kind of never get around to fixing it.
Yeah, I mean, at the gym, like how much hyper focus does your coach really have on you, or do you have on yourself? You're just kind of going with it. And by the tournament, it's like hyper focus. It's so much easier to pick apart the mistakes.
It's also a really good test to see how does your game hold up when you know that the person you're rolling against is giving you 100%, because most people in the gym don't roll 100% every round. And, maybe you're getting, especially if you're a big guy and you roll with some smaller guys and you get a lot of Kimuras, like, are you just overpowering it? Are you just really strong, or is your technique good? Well, the easiest way to figure out is to have someone of the same size who's really trying not to get Kimura'd and see if it works. If it does, well, then you probably did it right.
Yeah, 100%. And what really helps out too is the competition class. Like I know we implemented ours, it just really gets people going harder, gets people like really, in that mindset to compete and go hard.
It was, for me, as intense as a tournament, almost without the crowd. But I remember the first competition class, I had to leave about 10 minutes in and go sit down around the corner because I thought I was going to die. I literally thought I was having a heart attack, and you came over and you said, no, man, you're good. Get back in class. And I don't think I did. I sat out for an extra 10 minutes. It was really hard, but I wish I had that before my first tournament. So now I know what to expect. I like competition class for that. It gets you really ready for it.
Yeah, and I really like to push people hard in competition class because, it's like, competition is not a joke. It's not like you're having a fun, good time. You got to be serious and focused. So I think that's the exact way that competition class should be. I think a regular class, let's all have fun. Let's talk, have a good time. But if it's competition class and we're drilling, it's like, don't say a word. Let's just go and just have complete focus and let's just go hard. And yeah, I really like those classes. I always worry I sound a little like angry during them because I'm just like, let's go guys, let's go. But at the same time, I understand that that's what you need to do to get results.
I think it's good because sometimes it's hard to know what you're capable of unless you're pushed to figure it out. And there are a lot of people who get really complacent when they roll to like relax and only pick certain partners that they have fun with. And you stop pushing yourself in a way. But how do you feel about gyms that don't have competition classes? And if you got someone who wanted to compete, like as it leads up to the class, like with them asking their training partners, like, would you be okay if I rolled a little bit harder tonight? Like I want to compete and I want to push it a little bit more.
Yeah, I think that is a really good idea if you don't have a competition class to try to like mimic what a competition class is kind of like, yourself. just asking your training partners, to go harder, or you can also ask them to drill with you instead. I think drilling is like the best way to improve and get ready, rather than just, rolling like kind of more freestyle. And I know like in the past, I've not had competition classes, and I've had them and like, kind of like went back and forth, but 100% to get someone ready, you need a competition class. So yeah, we've got 2 now for the kids classes, and it's made a huge difference. Like, man, the kids are getting super good, and I want one for the adult class, and just having a hard time figuring out when to put it on the schedule is the only issue.
I don't know what it's like for purple and up, like the higher belts, but I know that it's quite a shock the first tournament you go to at white belt. I mean, your arms feel like they're going to blow up. You can't breathe. You're tired. You're exhausted. It's just quite a shock to the system. At least it was for me anyways, my first tournament.
Man, that's the worst part about competing. It's just because even if you do competition class, like nothing really prepares you for like that level of intensity. And, it's like, it's a life experience. I think everyone should compete at least once, even if they're not going to be a competitor. I think you just feel that intensity, feel what it's like to kind of be in, it's not a real fight, but I mean, it feels like one in that moment.
Yeah, it's definitely a lot different than rolling in the gym. And like, if you don't want to be a competitor, even if you're someone who wants to learn a martial art for self-defense or something, like you're not going to be relaxed and calm and having a good time if someone were to like try and attack you in a street. You're going to be stressed, and competition is really the best way to mimic that. How do you feel about like competition classes where they'll have 2 students do a match like in front of the rest of the students, like a mock match, to get used to rolling with people actually looking at you? Because I know the most common thing I get people say to me when I ask them if they're going to compete, they're like, people watching me would stress me out, or I feel like I wouldn't perform, or I'd panic, or I'd fold under the pressure of people watching.
That's me.
Yeah, I think that's such a funny thing, just because for me, I never felt that worry of people watching me. My only concern is I just want to win. That's the only thing I care about. So I have such a different perspective that way. But yeah, I understand that people do have that worry. And I think it's such a tough thing because, we've done them in the past where it's like, okay, let's get these 2 guys to go at it. We'll all cheer, we'll all do the points or whatever. And, it always feels a little uncomfortable after.
Oh, it does. Me and another person at the gym had a role like that, and everybody started cheering and everybody started shouting out what to do, coaching us. And I was terrified on the inside. Like I afterwards it was fun, but during I was terrified.
Yeah. It has its pros and cons, and it definitely, I think that is a great way to prepare for the intensity, because it's the same kind of thing, you really want to, win in front of your friends. And, but yeah, I mean, it just always feels a little weird after, but so I don't know if I recommend it. I
mean, it has helped me with my anxiety, because if I can get through that, I can get through just about anything else. Right. So there is pros to it as well as cons.
Yeah, 100%. And Joey, what do you think is the best format for a competition class?
Probably like a lot of positional drilling, like mostly like pick like close guard, and one guy's going to try and sweep or submit, and a guy's going to try and pass, and you drill that, and then pick another, like, all right, guys starting in side control and trying to get out. And I would spend like probably like 50% of the class at least just with like hard positional drilling and then live rolling.
Yeah, I agree. And I think 100% like positional drilling is the way to improve and get ready for competition. And I really like my format I have that I started implementing a couple months ago. And it's basically, we do it for the kids, and it's like 20 seconds on where we have to get something done within 20 seconds. And if you do, your partner does like 5 push-ups or 10 push-ups or whatever. And if they get what they want to do, you do 10 push-ups, and if neither one does it, then you both do 10 push-ups. So it's something really to incentivize, going hard and getting the job done, rather than just feel, okay, we didn't get it, no big deal, we'll do it next round.
I like that. Another drill I'm a really big fan of is like having someone start like 90% past your guard. So like, let's say with a knee slide, like almost through. And then for the drill, the person, you let them slide through, and then you basically have to have your 3 seconds where you don't let them hold you for 3 seconds, like your points. So you fight to not give up the points, be that going to turtle, getting back to guard right away, but just kind of drilling really quickly, not accepting a position and giving up the points. Because I think that's something a lot of people are too willing to do in regular classes. Like, oh, this person's passed, well, I'll just, get comfy, readjust, and wait for a time. Whereas in a tournament, it's got to be a little more urgency to get out of there.
Yeah, I agree 100%. And what I think is the best way to drill is to drill early and to drill late. So that's what we've been doing in class. Lately, we've been doing back attacks, like back chokes and stuff like that. So we have them start where the person already has the collar grip, or I'll have them start where the person already has one arm trapped. So you can really get experience with the end goal, so it makes it, so you can finish from there. Because sometimes when people just roll at the gym, they don't ever get to those positions. So they don't really understand how, devastating they are once they get there. So I think it's best to drill late and then also drill early. So then you drill where you just have the back, and then they understand, okay, well, I need to get to this, this later position, and then I can submit.
Yeah, I think drilling late is fantastic for tournament preparation too, because if you can get used to escaping when someone's starting in probably the worst scenario imaginable, like on your back with the collar already in hand. If you get in a tournament and someone does get there, you're not going to panic or give up, because like, I've drilled this for weeks, 6 minutes a night every week. I'm going to find a way out of here.
It also teaches like the defense too, because before we start, I'll tell everyone, that all you got to do to stop a bow and arrow choke is you got to stop their elbow from going behind you. So I tell them they can start with that grip if they want, and I highly recommend it, because that way they don't get choked right away. And I guess the only con of that is that you're going to get choked a lot throughout the drilling rounds. But I tell them too, don't hold out forever, and just like be smart, don't go to sleep, anything like that. And I really like that style of drilling.
It's helped me out in my everyday rolls. I can imagine it would help immensely getting ready for a tournament.
Yeah, we're going to do more stuff like that. We're just going to drill more in general, because, I think that definitely is the best way to get better. I mean, sometimes my problem is sometimes I'm a little lazy, to be honest, where I just teach and then we just roll. And I don't think that is the best way at all to have people get better. The best thing to do is to teach, and then so that way you're doing it without resistance, and then you're drilling with resistance, and then you roll.
Yeah, I think an ideal class like optimally would have all three of like practice the move with no resistance, practice it in a very specific scenario with some resistance, and then you have a live class where you know the move, you know how to do it with resistance, but now you've got to try to get there. Like for instance, if you're starting on the back and you want to finish and work on your back finishes, well, that's not helpful at all if you can't actually get on someone's back. So putting someone in a scenario now where it's you practiced it, you got it right, the technique, and then you can do it when someone's resisting, and now just figure out a way to get there and do it.
Exactly. And that's a great point you made, because sometimes people don't get to those positions. So actually what happened on Wednesday when we were drilling, Nikki was who's a brown belt, she was drilling with a white belt who just started a couple months ago, and she and this lady, she got Nikki with a choke, because they started with the collar, and she just felt so good about it. Like she just felt like, oh my god, you tapped. And it wasn't in like a rude way, anything like that. It was like 100%. She was just like happy, and Nikki was very happy for her too. She's like, oh yeah, like, you got it, you did a great job. And so I think that's like so great for her, and really is going to show her, okay, I know how to submit people from the back now I got to get there.
Yeah. And like, I kind of like that about the way, at least you run drilling, is that it's start on the back with a collar, but it doesn't have to be a bow and arrow. It can be anything when you get here. And I think a lot of people, when they drill, it's too specific. It's like you're on the back, you have to get a bow and arrow. Well, that's not helpful if the person's defending a bow and arrow. And then when people just drill that, especially guys who will drill it like for hours on end, they'll get on someone's back, the person will defend a bow and arrow, and they just don't do anything else because they drilled too specific, and they can't figure out a way to actually like connect that with the rest of their game.
Yeah, I talk about it all the time on the channel. You want to go path of least resistance. So if you just do it that way, where it's like, okay, I can only get a bow and arrow choke. Well, it's not always going to be the path of least resistance. So you have to be able to transition to other things. And from those grips, you could easily go to arm bar. You could start working towards triangle and stuff like that. So it's not good to like pigeonhole yourself in that way. It's better to have everything available to you.
Yeah, I see it a lot when we do like King of the Hill or something, and there's passing, and someone will try to knee slide, and the person's doing a great defense to the knee slide, but they're completely leaving another pass open, and the person on top just keeps trying to ram through with a knee slide. And it's like, I know you've drilled your knee slide, and I know you're really good at it, but part of being good at a technique is realizing when it's not going to work and you need to switch to something else.
Exactly, like the side smash. My favorite combo, the knee slide side smash combo. And yeah, we worked on that whole system probably for 6 weeks before. I think that's the best way to to teach people is to just repetition, you know. And, you know, going back to that, I wish we would have drilled even more. And, but I think we're going to have to do that soon. We're going to have to like just revisit it quickly and start drilling it a lot more. And, I want to implement so much more drilling. And it's like kind of what I said before, you know, everything's like, you know, I'm not like a perfect instructor right now. I think I'm pretty good, but, it's about the journey of getting there and learning from your mistakes, learning how to improve, get better. And, so that's what we're going to do. We're going to keep improving the classes.
I also like when we're doing drilling and you tell us to switch, because when we start, we pick our partner. So it's somebody we're comfortable with, somebody might be a buddy of ours. But when you tell us to switch, we don't have time to think, and we may go against somebody who we normally would not have, you know, maybe a brown belt, maybe a high-level purple belt, or somebody twice my size that I normally wouldn't pick to be my partner. So it really gives us a variety, and it helps you get past that.
Yeah, I think that touches on like a really interesting thing, especially for like competition prep too. If you're drilling and stuff and you're planning on competing, pick good partners.
Yeah.
If you're a 130-pound female, don't drill with the 280-pound guy. It's not giving you anything of use. Pick good partners, like, and pick partners who also are going to be at the same mindset as you. Like, if I want to compete, people I like to pick are like, you know, some of the younger, more athletic guys at the gym that I know. Maybe if I'm more technical than them, at least they can still push me with athleticism, and they'll be okay if I go a little bit harder with them.
Yeah, exactly. I think if you're more skilled than, you know, the people around you, go with someone that's athletic, and you'll still have, you know, it'll still be somewhat difficult, you know. And when I do say switch, I always think it's so funny because, you know, people always go way harder on the second round. The first one, they're just kind of casual, just having a good time. And then when they switch, okay, now the fire's lit, you know. Yeah. And it's so funny for me to witness, you know. And it's just funny too, seeing people like trying to pick partners. They're like looking around and like trying to like not make eye contact with certain people or whatever. I'm like, guys, just pick whoever's closest. But I do agree, you should pick like the right person for you. But, you know, sometimes people are a little like awkward that way. It's like a high school dance. They're like, oh, I don't know who to go with.
Yeah. I always love when you get like, when we do our back drilling and you get paired with someone that you've never gone with before, and they'll start on your back. And there's always that thought of like, okay, how hard is this person going to go? Like, is this to the death with this drill, or are we going to practice the technique? What are we doing?
Yeah, it's always funny too. It doesn't really happen at our gym very often. And like, I've seen it, you know, when I was at other gyms, but you'd be drilling and then the people just start rolling, you know, because they're just like, they don't want to give up. They don't want to admit that they lost or whatever. So they just keep going. But it's like, guys, you know, just stop. Let's just restart the drill.
Yeah, you say that every class. No rolling. Just stop when you have the drill complete. Yeah. Yeah,
you know how many times I repeat things in the class, because if I don't, people will not. It won't register with them. Like all the time. Like people, I'll tell the guys, I'll tell you when to switch. It'll be when the timer goes. And then people will switch on their own the whole time. It's like, you guys got to pay attention.
Yeah. Every class for like years, you've been saying, don't switch on your own. I'll tell you when, and someone will do it every single class.
Literally. Then they look puzzled. It's like, oh, we aren't supposed to switch on our own. Yeah, if you listen to me.
So to bring it back, Jordan, when do you suggest to somebody you might want to try to compete?
You know, it's not only like skill, it's also like their mentality. You know, if I can tell they have a little bit of an ego and that they're not going to deal well with losing, then I won't recommend that they compete, because I don't want to lose a student, and I don't want them to, you know, quit jiu-jitsu either. So there's a lot of factors that go into it. And, but, you know, when someone does reach like a certain level where I feel, okay, they can hold their own and they'll do well, they'll do pretty good. You know, basically I want to make sure they have a chance of at least getting on the podium before I, recommend someone compete. And not like, oh, they have to win gold, they got to win silver, but at least have the chance of getting bronze, to have the chance. And if they don't get bronze or anything at the tournament, that's no big deal. But I wouldn't want to send someone in that I know has no possible way of getting onto the podium. It just doesn't make any sense to send them there, you know, set them up for failure.
I remember I was so terrified at the tournament when I lost. I was so scared that I let you down, I let the gym down, I let everybody down. But that was my biggest fear. That was way more than losing, you know. But you reassured me, you know, don't worry about that. It's going to happen. It's the journey, you know.
Exactly. And like I tell people, like, you know, if you're a competitor, you're going to lose. That's part about being a competitor. You know, you win some and you lose some. Like even Gordon Ryan's lost some. He doesn't lose anymore. But, you know, coming up part of the journey, you know, he lost many matches, and, you know, I've won some and I've lost some too. So people have to hold themselves at a higher standard than like world-class competitors. It's just a little bit silly, you know. It's okay to lose, and it makes you better. And again, yeah, it's just like, it's cool I think it's cool being a jiu-jitsu competitor. And again, part of being a competitor is you're going to lose sometimes.
Yeah.
What do you say to students who say like they'd feel bad, like that they're worried about like embarrassing you as like their coach, like as someone who's trained them, and like they're competing under your gym, they're worried about looking really bad and like making you look bad?
That's what I did. That's how I felt.
Yeah, that's something I worry about now, especially with, with the YouTube channel. I worry that people will like feel like pressured to do well, because now there's a little bit of, I worry that some people might have expectation of my students to perform well, right? And they shouldn't have that, because, that's just adding pressure for no reason. So, but I would never feel bad. I would never feel bad if someone loses and represents me or whatever. It's just like, again, you're a jiu-jitsu competitor, you win some, you lose some. What would make me feel bad and not, like them representing me, is if they had a really bad attitude and they just, they weren't very sportsmanlike, and it's more stuff like that. That's what I care about. But winning and losing, it's just like, it's part of being competitors. So no big deal. I've lost, and I didn't embarrass my instructor, I don't think so. But I understand everyone's got, anxiety and stuff like that, which we talk about a lot on the podcast. We'll spare you guys this time. No, I know everyone enjoys when we talk about that kind of stuff. So.
Does it get easier every tournament you do, or is it always butterflies and scared shitless?
I would say it gets easier, but it never gets easy. Like, I don't really, I get super nervous competing, and I don't think it's ever going to go away. But I remember there was times where I would like feel like I'm underwater, because I'm just so paralyzed by fear and anxiety. And that went away. But, I never felt like I performed as well as I did in the gym, just because I just have so much so much performance anxiety. So I just can't quite get loose. And, I'm a pretty like loose grappler, like where I'm like very dynamic and flow very well. So that really messes up my game, having those jitters. I
think it doesn't really, I wouldn't say like the nerves or anxiety go away. I think you just get better at learning how to kind of deal with it and make use of it as best as you can. Like, I still have the occasional match where, like, I'm sure you've had it too, Jordan, you've competed a lot, where you go out and you just kind of feel flat the whole match. And it's like, afterwards, you're like, I just never really did what I wanted to do. I couldn't get in gear. But I think over time you learn how to get yourself pumped up to compete, how to get ready, how to deal with the anxiety. I think it's something you really just have to do.
I really admire people that can compete on a regular basis, because I can't imagine, the butterfly feeling going away.
Yeah, it's like Chael Sonnen says, like, emotions like that never help you in a fist fight. And same thing with grappling. They don't help you at all. So you just kind of have to try to ignore them and do it anyways. A quote I always like is, bravery is being scared to do something and doing it anyways. And, I don't think what makes someone strong is not having fear to do something. I think what makes someone strong is to be fearful and do it anyways.
You told me that quote literally before I won double gold at my next tournament.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's one of my favorite quotes, because that's how I approach everything. Like, a lot of things do make me scared to do. I think people kind of view me as someone that's like a high achiever and stuff like that, but they might not realize I have just as much, anxiety and fear as anyone, but, I just do a good job of just fighting through it anyways.
That's amazing.
I think a lot of people, like, to bring it back, like, there's a lot of people who stop competing at the higher belts, or especially like if they open gyms, because they don't want, if they don't win, people to criticize them or say like, or their students to look and go, oh, my instructor lost to this other instructor. Like, I think it's really important for people to understand that, like, don't do that. If people are competing, if you're the person who's stressed about competing, you wouldn't want someone to do that with you. So like, if you see someone compete and they don't win, don't, talk about like, oh, they underperformed, or like they're bad, or they lost to this person. Like, know that, like, you don't know what was going on. Maybe they had trouble dealing with the nerves. Just like, respect the fact that they got out there and tried.
Yeah, there's a lot of things people shouldn't say to people that competed and lost, and they don't realize that it might hurt their feelings, like, one, sometimes people will be like, oh, you lost, really? But you're so good, it's almost like you let them down and you're not as good as they thought you were, but like, guys, there's a lot of good people out there, just because you lost one match doesn't mean you're not good anymore. But yeah, that kind of implies that, they're kind of surprised you're not as good as they thought they were.
Yeah, I'm definitely guilty of that in the past, like having said something that you think was going to help someone feel better about it, and then like an hour later you sit and you're like, oh, that probably came off really, really bad. Now you feel terrible about saying it. Sometimes just don't say anything.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, if I lose, I don't even want to talk about it. They just try to make you feel better, and they don't really understand. But yeah, it can be a really sensitive issue.
I know if somebody's going to go into a tournament, I don't ever say, "Oh, you're going to kill it. You're going to be on the podium. You're going to be this, that." I always say, "Good luck. I hope you have great matches," because afterwards, if they look back, if they lose, and everybody thought I was going to kill it. Everybody thought I was going to get gold. Oh my God. Because I know I've felt like that before, because people said that to me.
Man, I've always hated that when people tell me, "Oh, like, why are you nervous? You're going to kill it anyways." You always do. But it's like puts that expectation on me, and it almost makes it sound like winning is easy, but it's not. This whole thing is so stressful. The whole thing is very hard to do, and it doesn't come easy, just because you win. It doesn't come easy. So I hate when people say that to me.
Yeah, I always tell people, like, I can't guarantee you'll win, especially when, like, students ask me, like, how do you think I would do if I competed? I'd be like, well, I'll be honest, like, I can't guarantee you'd win. I don't know what'll happen. The only thing I can say is, like, I'm going to be proud of you either way, no matter what. And as long as you perform, like, even if someone beats you, it's going to be a hard match. Like, no one's going to have an easy time winning against you. And honestly, that's the best I can say.
That's what I always tell people. Like, don't focus on winning or losing. Just focus on having a good performance, because if you have a good performance, that's gonna help you win. And like, that's the main thing. Because again, like we talked about earlier, like feeling flat out there, that's the worst thing. And oftentimes you feel flat because you're so focused on winning and so anxious. But if you take away that expectation and just try to have a good performance, I think that'll aid you so much to actually get the win.
Well, I'm sure, like, you've had matches too that you've won but felt like you didn't perform well at all, and then matches where you've lost where you're like, I actually thought I did really well and just didn't get the win.
Oh man, 100%. A good example was my last Muay Thai fight. I felt so flat and so crappy, and I felt so scared the whole time, and I just underperformed like crazy. But then when I watched the match back, I basically, they threw in the towel. Like, I beat them up pretty good, but I was just so brawly, I just like brawled because I just like so much in my head. And, the same things happen with jiu-jitsu too, for sure. It's like, you just don't feel it out there. You don't feel like that smoothness. And it's really hard to deal with when you're out there and you're like, oh crap, I got to still perform and get the job done.
I just remember thinking, if I rolled these guys in open mat, I would just murder them. But now here at this tournament, I can't seem to get my head straight.
See, that's what I always think too, but I guarantee they're thinking the same thing about you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's a tough one, because everyone performs better in the gym. So yeah, and it's important to be careful not to tell yourself like, little like lies to yourself, but maybe they necessarily might not be lies, but again, like, because both guys are feeling like that, what's the truth? Yeah,
this was me at white belt, by the way. This is not how I act or think now, but I've grown quite a bit since then.
No, like, I don't blame you, because like, I mean, I've felt the exact same way. So like, but it's more like criticism of myself too, like keeping myself in check when I felt like that.
Yeah.
I think that's one actually nice thing about competing as you get into the higher belts too, especially in our area where there's not like a ton of gyms. Like, we're not obviously in like a New York or California, is you end up competing against a lot of the same people, like throughout the belts. So you kind of know where you stack up with people over time, and it makes it easier to not say that, well, if I was in the gym, I'd kill this guy, because, I've competed against him now 7 times and we're 4-3. So I kind of know it's very even.
Yeah.
This first tournament, I got smoked by this guy. And then on the second tournament, a few months later, he got promoted, and he had a couple more stripes than me at this point, and he beat me by points. And I looked at the ref like, how is this crazy? I think I showed you the video, and you were like, I don't know what video he was watching, but he wasn't watching your match. But then he was chirping me on the podium. He was literally looking down at me. He said, "You're never going to be on this number 1 spot. Get used to second place."
Wow.
I couldn't believe
awful.
it. So I had to wait about 5 hours for no gi to start. So when no gi started, I beat him. I beat him 4-0, right? And afterwards, when we were on the podium, I didn't want to gloat or be a dick or anything, but I looked at him like, you were wrong about that. And he apologized. He said, "I've just never been beat before. I've never felt like this before."
But why say that, man? That's crazy.
No idea.
That's even more context. I do remember the video you sent me. And for those who are wondering, like, I am a certified referee. I've ref multiple tournaments. I'm not sure what the referee was watching in that match, but it wasn't your match. Like, I don't know if he was distracted and watching another mat or something, but there were multiple instances of like a guard pass and the referee just sits there for 15-20 seconds. The guards regarded and no points were ever given.
His coach came up to me afterwards and said, "You won that match. You know that, right?" And I said, "That's why when I speak about that tournament, I say I won double gold, because of his own coaches saying that." then I know I beat him.
That was one of the more egregious ref jobs.
That was pretty bad.
But to win by a ref doing that and then talk shit on the podium is that's an aggressive move.
Yeah.
You gotta wonder what kind of guy that is just in everyday real life, to be able to say something like that. How does he treat people around him?
You should see the picture of me in first place. He had his foot on the podium on first place. He wouldn't even concede me that space.
Wow.
For a picture, just for the one moment in time, he wouldn't give me that one moment.
That reminds me of a good point that I wanted to bring up for people out there thinking about competing. If you make it to like the medal rounds, like say third, or even if there's only 4 people in your division and you're guaranteed the bronze if you lose, go to the podium and get the medal.
Yeah.
Not for you, but for the person who won. Like that's, for a lot of people, they might only compete once or twice in their life. And that picture on the podium of them with the gold is the memory they'll have forever. Don't rob someone of that by not going.
Yeah, I hate that. He's seeing that. There's like person in first and the person in second's missing, and then maybe one person for the third. It just looks like a messed up podium.
That's happened to me. I've lost and I got fourth and I was on the podium. I stood for the picture because, like you said, that's their picture. I owe it to them.
Yeah, it goes back to what we were talking about of like showing respect for the people you're competing with and just being a good competitor. Like you aren't going to be happy that you lost, but that person's happy they won and you wouldn't want them to take that away from you. So don't take that away from them.
Yeah, and not even just a good competitor, but also just a good person, like you got to like live life with like morals and not do stuff like that where you're prioritizing your own feelings over someone else's, and that's like, I don't like that stuff at all. Like if that person is at my gym, that guy, I'd probably tell him to go to a different gym.
Yeah.
Well, let's continue with another viewer question.
What was your most funniest, embarrassing moments at your BJJ classes?
Yeah, so I got a feeling most of our stories are going to be like fart stories. I know mine is like basically just like the funniest, most embarrassing moment was just like, teaching technique and then all of a sudden a fart comes out and not ideal, but yeah, nothing really too crazy has happened other than that. One time my assistant, my Uke, she farted and I didn't know what to say. I said it wasn't me, but yeah, kind of threw her under the bus. I should have taken the blame. I think I should have said it was me.
My funniest one, embarrassing, is I had another guy in a fully locked in triangle and I was really trying to fart. Really trying not to fart, sorry. And I was squeezing. I couldn't get the triangle sunk in, and I farted, and he tapped. Not from the triangle though, just from the
I think mine is when I trained at a gym before, there was another guy whose name was Joe, and when he asked me his name, or when he asked me my name, I said Joey, and then he looked at me and said Joe, and I was like Joey, and he just said Joe, and we went back and forth about 7 times before I realized he was trying to tell me his name was Joe, and he thought I was trying to call him Joey, and he kept trying to correct me. So it was really awkward going back and forth, and one of us eventually just said, no, like, I'm Joey, and he's like, oh. It was really funny though.
It is funny. It actually reminds me of a story when I was at a seminar once with one of my friends, and it was in Quebec, so they speak French in Quebec. And one of the instructors asked him, "Do you speak French?" And he said yes, even though he doesn't speak French. And then they started speaking to him in French, and then he had to say like, "I don't speak French." So I don't know why he said yes. Like you don't speak French. Like I don't know what's going on there.
Probably just nervous. Yeah.
That's the panic. Yes. Yeah. Sure.
Oh no, I got another great story though. It's another fart story, but basically it was the same seminar, same guy, and just it was just like during the belt promotions, it was super quiet, and he just lets out a fart out of nowhere, and then everyone's just looking. He's just like, sorry guys, and he just owned it and didn't even faze him.
Farts are universally funny.
Yeah, exactly. They are.
And you can't help it, especially in a sport where you're squeezing and being squeezed. Somebody's going to fart. I mean, it's just going to happen.
Oh man, that also reminds me one time when I was in high school, Relay for Life.
I don't.
Oh, it's like an event to put on for cancer research and funding. And yeah, it was a moment of silence so no one could say anything. And then, one of my friends got pooped on by a bird right on her head. And I'm like trying not to laugh, be respectful. This is a moment of silence, but how can you not laugh at someone getting pooped on? You know what I mean? Like I just do my best not to laugh, but because I don't want to look like, an asshole. So yeah, so those are our fart stories and poop stories. All right, so yeah, we got that out of the way. Well, let's continue with another viewer question. So this one's from Steve.
Before you promote a student or students, are you actively seeking improvements on their ends? Like, you might watch them a little bit more during their rolls, or do sometimes students kind of surprise you and you see them roll and you're like, wow, they've gotten really good, or you roll with them and you're like, you know what, I think they might be better off with a couple more stripes, or maybe a new belt pretty soon? Or is it a mixture of both of these things?
It's definitely like a mixture of both things, and sometimes people really do surprise me like quite a bit. Like maybe I haven't rolled with them in a while and I'm just like, oh wow, like they're really good. Like what have I been doing? Like not giving them a promotion, and that happens all the time. Yeah, I'll be either rolling with them or watching them do really well against someone, and but once it's been a while since someone's had like their last stripe or belt, then I really start trying to roll with them more and kind of like trying to start assessing their level and if they are ready for the next one. And yeah, I always like when I'm pleasantly surprised.
Do you ever ask the other black belts at the club for their input as well, or do you just go on your own?
Oh yeah, like I always ask them, and because I really respect their opinions, and sometimes they'll tell me, because just the reality of the situation, it's kind of hard to track everyone accurately without without sometimes just forgetting a little bit, just to tell you the truth. Like, so sometimes, like Darren or, Joey too will be, oh, this person hasn't they haven't got a stripe, been promoted in a while. I think they're ready. I'm like, so I really take that into account, and really start paying attention even more so to them, because, it's hard to roll with everyone every single night, obviously, because we have so many members, and it's just hard to keep track so much. So yeah.
No, that makes sense. I mean, it must be like, do you keep track anywhere? Like, do you have like a document on your computer, write it down somewhere, like roughly how long it's been when you promote people, or do you just kind of go off whenever you feel?
Yeah, just everything in life. I just wing everything, just tell you the truth. And, I should keep track a little bit better, to be honest. But I think everything in my life I should keep better track of and be better organized. So yeah, like the thing is, like the belt system and the stripe system, it is the way I track, and most people do. So you don't have to write it down. It's like, okay, this person has 3 stripes, so they're obviously getting close to their next belt. And so sometimes when people like their stripe falls off in the wash and they don't replace it, and like this happened to me, like someone their stripe fell off, and I promoted them again to give them another stripe, but they already had it. Like I brought them back to where they were, and like afterwards I'm like, oh shoot, but that's how I keep track. So if your stripe comes off, you got to replace it.
Well, I remember when I got my blue belt, the day of, I was rolling a higher belt, and I submitted him a couple times. He was from another school. He came in to visit, and I don't know if that's what pushed me over the edge to get my blue belt, but it was quite a coincidence that day I was awarded my blue belt.
Yeah, sometimes that is what it is. It's just like an event or like a moment that really shows me, okay, yeah, this person is ready now. Maybe because a visitor came in, or they're just doing really well against everyone, and you were when you're a white belt, you were doing really well against blue belts and other higher level belts.
Thank you.
Do you think competition helps with that? Like if you have a student who's a white belt and they compete and they win like a double gold or something, like does that factor in?
Yeah, that's a great question. And people ask me that a lot, if you need to compete. I think all that does is it just shows you, it's just like a reminder. It just shows you that they are ready, rather than being a necessity. It just shows you that they're ready. So yeah, I don't think it's necessary to compete if you want to, to go through the belt system, be promoted, but it just definitely helps show the instructor.
And then there's guys at the gym like Alexi, who was a 2-stripe white belt, and we were all begging you to promote him to blue belt because we were tired of getting, not getting beat up, but I mean, he was at our level very quickly. He was a prodigy pretty much.
It's always funny when that happens, when like someone gets promoted, everyone just like breathes a sigh of relief. They're like, thank God, they got their belt. Because even though people shouldn't 100% feel like that, but it's just like human nature, just to like, they're a lower belt, you do feel bad. So sometimes like on YouTube or whatever, or Reddit, or people will be like, oh, the belts don't matter, just be humble. And I agree, people should try to be humble and not have that attitude as much as possible. But I mean, we're all human, we all have emotions. We can't just like deny that that's a fact of reality. Like it does feel kind of crappy to get beat up by a lower belt.
Oh, I agree. That's why I was so happy when you promoted him.
Yeah, exactly. And he's just like a natural right off the bat. It's always cool seeing people like that just like pick it up so quickly, because that's how I felt about me too. I felt it really quickly. Like Alexi reminds me a lot of me, so I always like beating him up and just just making sure he knows, like because he is like kind of like a prodigy that way. Like he just learns so quickly. But yeah, I definitely gotta show him. every time.
Yeah, we might have to beat him up after this. His ego's going to go through the roof if he listens.
Well, I'll just edit this out. Yeah, he's not going to hear this part. Let's take another viewer question. This is from Raj.
Hey, Jordan, love your content. What advice would you give an older white belt to measure progress against younger, faster, stronger white belts?
Yeah, this is such a great question, and it's one that's really hard for us to answer. Like before the podcast, like this is the one that was troubling us the most, because it just is it's hard not to compare yourself to others, and it's hard to, it's a hard one. I don't know what you guys think.
I think everybody's learning at the same rate when you're a white belt, so it's hard to compare yourself to the people around you. So, I mean, if somebody comes in from another gym and you do well against them, and you see how the younger guy does against them, guy or girl does against them, I mean, you can compare that way, but I almost don't even like to compare in jiu-jitsu. Everybody has their own path that they're on. Everybody has different attributes. Like they might be younger, I might be stronger. So you know what I mean? It's hard to compare.
Yeah, I think like the ultimate goal should always be to not feel that way and not have an ego. But I think that it's hard to get there, and just part of life. Again, it's like not like it's just instant. You can just not feel a way you don't want to. It's something you got to work towards.
Yeah.
I always kind of compared myself to a lot of people, and I think the best way for someone who's not super like young or athletic and wants to compare themselves to the people who are is, instead of looking at like the end result of a roll, like did I tap, did I win in quotation marks, I always say like look for the little things. Like if a person's been beating you a bunch of times when you roll with them, instead of getting tapped on their first or second submission attempt, did you defend 2 or 3 things and maybe get caught with the third? Well, that's improvement. Like, did you get out of side control 2 times and just get stuck the 3rd time? Well, that's better than just getting stuck once and never getting out. It doesn't have to be a win to mark progress. It's just like the little like sub steps along the way.
It's just hard not to compare yourself to others. I remember when I was a white belt, I didn't always have the best mentality, so like I'd roll with someone. Afterwards, I'd ask them how much they weigh, how long they've been training, right? Because it wasn't like I was just, making conversation, and they probably knew that. Like I was comparing myself to them, and, that's not the right attitude to have whatsoever. But I mean, I can't deny that that's the way I felt. And, I was a lot younger back then, but yeah, I would definitely try not to feel like that now. But again, I think like the end goal is not feeling that way. And, but human nature, so it's hard not to sometimes.
Well, now that we're real talk here, I literally had a calendar at home, and I'd mark down if I tapped person X or how long I would last against person Y or Z. And I know that's not the right way to be. You shouldn't be doing that. But no, like you said, it's hard to break out of that. Right now I'm a blue belt. I don't do that. I find everything has changed. I'm more about, I don't care if somebody's better than me or if they tap me. I want to just see how much I can possibly learn.
Exactly. And, I think it's just always great to be honest about these things, because with some people, it's almost like a cardinal sin to like compare yourself that way and to write down your submissions or whatever. But, that's what you're doing as a white belt. And, you've had personal growth since then as a blue belt. Exactly. And that's what I'm talking about. Everything's part of the journey, just to, try to get better and better, not only at jiu-jitsu, but dealing with everything mentally.
I actually think there's some value in writing down your submissions, not necessarily to keep track of like how well you compare to other people, but especially if you're new, writing down like what's working for you in class. Yeah. Like if you're writing down like, I got 5 Kimuras today. It's like, okay, Kimuras are good. Let's maybe, work on finding setups for Kimuras and more things like that. Not necessarily like to compare yourself to your training partners, but it helps you kind of see what you're getting better at over time.
Yeah, I agree. And I don't think there's anything wrong with, I tapped this person, as long as you're not bragging about it. But, but that's not the case in the situation. Like I remember, when I was a white belt, I knew exactly how many times I tapped my instructor. It wasn't very many. It was like 3 or 4. But, black belts can get submitted by white belts. That's just a fact of reality. I've been submitted by a white belt like a couple times. And just like maybe they just did a good job. I remember Amos, he triangled me, and it was fair and square. It's not like I wasn't trying. He caught me in a triangle, and I promoted him to blue belt quickly after that. But I don't think there's anything wrong with that, because it just feels good. When you're a lower belt, you tap the higher belts, it feels good.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. I remember when I was a white belt, I would tap blue belts. Now that I'm a blue belt, I don't want to get tapped by white belts, but it happens. I don't cry about it. I mean, I look at it as a learning experience. What did I do wrong? What are they doing right? What do I need to work on?
Yeah, I like when someone, a lower belt, does well against me if they're my student. I think that it's like, wow, I'm a great teacher. That's the way I think of it. That reflects, that's what you want as an instructor. You want your students to surpass you, or even if they don't, you want them to do well against you and to, give you a real challenge. So yeah, I really like when that happens.
Yeah.
I think that's a really good mentality to have as an instructor. What I hate seeing is, you'll get a higher belt and they'll get caught, and maybe I'm watching the roll and I see them And you're looking and you're like, that submission's definitely done. And they'll stop the person and kind of like explain something or give them a tip. And it's like, you're taking away from that person who's submitting you. Like, I know you might not like getting submitted but for a lower belt, but for them, that might actually be a big confidence boost. And it's kind of like a really rude thing to do, to take that away from someone.
I've had that happen.
Yeah, that's like the worst thing. And it's like, it's really prioritizing your own feelings over other people's. And I really don't like that at all. And, you know, that's super messed up. And I've had that too as a lower belt. And I always hated it. And what's also like really terrible is when people, like, you submit a higher belt and then they just try to kill you after. I remember my first instructor, you know, because I only submitted him a couple times, you know, because he submitted me all the time. Obviously he's better than me. I was just a white belt. But when I did get him, I was in for it. I was like so scared, like, oh my God, I hope there's only like 10 seconds left of the roll. I'm going to die right now.
And that's a terrible attitude, because it makes it so that people don't want to try things. Like, they're afraid to attempt a submission. I really think as like a higher belt, it's your job to, like, when someone who's lower gets you, like, encourage them. Like, Mike put me to sleep like a month ago, and he was like, oh, you let me have it. And I was the first person to say, like, no, you got it. Like, I didn't let you do anything. Like, maybe I didn't resist as hard as I possibly could have getting into the position, but once you got a choke, I was trying to get out.
And he sent me a message afterwards and saying, good job. That shows you he has no ego, you know. That's great.
That's the right mentality. And it was the same thing. You know, I remember in the past, sometimes, you know, just you accidentally kick someone in the face or knee them in the face or whatever. And obviously you want to not do that. But I remember if I would do that by accident, they would just kill me after, you know? So if anyone ever hurts me by accident, I stay calm and I just keep grappling like normal. I understand this is a combat sport, you know, accidents happen. You don't need to retaliate, you know, because your ego's hurt or because, you know, you got a little accidental injury or something like that.
I remember the first time that I rolled you, I think I punched you in the face by accident, and I was scared shitless. Like, I'm not going to lie. I was scared because I didn't know you as a person. I know you now, but I mean, I thought, oh my God, he's going to murder me now. And you were like, dude, I get hit harder in MMA all the time. I was like, okay, cool. And then you didn't do anything. And I was like, oh my God, everybody's cool here. Like, I just couldn't, I thought you were going to kick the crap out of me.
Yeah, no, that's what I tell everyone, because it's the truth, you know, like when you train MMA, you know, and Muay Thai, you get hit a lot more. And like, it's just, we're doing a combat sport. It's not ballet, anything like that. And since I've had people retaliate against me, I want to do the exact opposite as those people, you know, because I don't think that's cool at all. And so, yeah, what I do is I try to stay extra calm. You know, I try to really, like, not just roll normal, but go extra calm, make sure I'm okay to go, because I would never want to hurt someone or be that kind of person.
Another thing, if we go back to the guy who explains things right when he's about to tap, well, what I do, if somebody lower belt is going to tap me, they tap me and I'll give them advice afterwards. I'll be like, that was a little cranky, a little neck cranky, maybe, you know, if you adjust, but I'll tap to it first. I'm not going to deny them their tap that they earned.
Yeah, you know, it's such like a fine line, because the same thing, like, I want to give people advice after, but I also don't want them to think I'm being like dismissive of their technique or whatever. But like, it's just what you have to do to help someone improve, right? So if it doesn't come from a place of just like, you know, trying to be like, oh yeah, you know, you could have done this and this better, you know, and actually trying to help them, then that's like a really nice thing to do to someone.
Oh, exactly. It's all in the way that you tell them, I believe.
Yeah, I agree 100%. It's like I said before, you know, it's like not prioritizing your feelings over someone else's. You know, that's what a bad ego is. Like, there's healthy ego and then there's like unhealthy ego, and it's just important to have that healthy ego. So yeah, let's get into the next question. This is from Yanko. I hope I pronounced that right. I think he pronounces it himself in the voice clip.
Hi guys, my name is Yago. I'm a big fan. I've been doing jiu-jitsu for about 1.5 years now. I'm a blue belt. And my question for Jordan is, how and when did you decide to open your own gym? Because one of my main goals is to have my own gym and teach jiu-jitsu. So if you can explain to us what the biggest challenges you had in the beginning, and when did you decide to open and why, that would be great. So hopefully you guys get my question and answer. And keep the podcast up. It's amazing, and I love your channel. Thank you.
Yeah, first off, we super appreciate the compliment. Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And before we get into the answer, just anytime anyone has a question, please do it through voice message, and I'll always have an Instagram link to it. So I think it's really cool doing it this way. So to answer your question, I was training at a CrossFit gym, and they were expanding to a larger location, and they asked me if I want to start a grappling program. And I wanted to start a gym when I was like a brown belt or something like that anyways, but so it was a little premature, but I didn't want to give up the opportunity, right? So I started it as a blue belt right before I got my purple belt. And that was definitely the biggest challenge, just like being a lower belt and people talking smack, saying like, you can't teach this and that. And like, so people were just so negative about it. And I remember people just sending me like screenshots of things people said, and like people are so negative. But like I feel like, I got a great gym now and I was successful. So how does it feel for them to, be so wrong and to have been such douches about it? The real challenge too is, figuring how to run a gym. Like, I was 24 years old, and like I didn't know what I was doing. So like, it's really funny, like the way the gym has progressed throughout the years. And I remember, just like going from super unprofessional to being like the professional gym that we are now. And there was a lot of learning experiences along the way. Like one funny story is like when we were at 67 Dufferin, like it was like a smaller location, whatever. We were pretty unprofessional in the sense of like cleanliness, like we always clean the mats, like that was always clean, but like, the floors are always full of like dust bunnies and just like gross and everything. And like the bathroom looked like a crack den, and it was pretty sketched out, because one time like the light wasn't working, and so I had a lamp just like on, it was like flickering all the time. It was just like, it was super sketchy. And I remember someone sent me someone canceled their membership once, and I just asked them, like, why, just curious, like, why'd you cancel? And it was like a women's kickboxing person, and it was the co-ed program, but she was a lady, and she just basically just tore apart the gym, like the cleanliness of it, and said it was disgusting, this and that. And I'm like, wow, you're right, like you're 100% right. Even though it hurt my feelings, I felt like bad about it, but I'm like, damn, like they're right. So after that, we took way better care of the gym, making it cleaner. But again, the mats were always clean. That was never an issue. It was just like the rest of it, there was like spiders everywhere, and but again, like not making excuses, but I was just like young. I was like 25 at that point, and just like only had the gym as like a for fun thing, and I just viewed it as like, okay, we're just training. I didn't take it as a professional job or anything like that.
Well, the gym we started in was also a bit of a dungeon, so I mean, that's kind of what we were used to.
Yeah, and just gyms back then, even though it wasn't that long ago, I just found there were just more dungeons back then, more like just gross places, and like ours was actually like better than most even, and it was still awful. So just things like that. It was a big learning experience just to do everything right, I remember back then too, I just charged so little. I was charging $19.95 bi-weekly. I just wanted people to train, and then I just slowly increased my price, this and that, and increased the value of the gym, more classes, more cleanliness, better mats, this and that. So it's been such a journey to get where we're at. And I'm really proud of the product we have now. But just a learning experience. And what would really help someone open a gym is if they hire a business consultant. I think that's like a really helpful thing. So when like a little bit before the pandemic started, I hired Nicholas Stiglia from Legacy Consulting to help me out. We like doubled our income within like 2 months of hiring him, and then after that I went full time with the gym, and then the pandemic hit, and then that sucked. So but I think anyone's considering a gym should consider hiring someone that knows what they're doing, so they don't need to make the same mistakes I made coming up.
Having the cheap membership at the start was probably actually a good idea, and help you build up a membership base before like everything expanded. Because I know, like for me, like sometimes when I moved to different cities, you look up a gym and it's taught by a purple belt, and they're charging like $220 a month, and you're like, that's a lot of money. Like,
yeah, well, especially because the gym where we were at before, they were in Trenton too, so they were like our competitor, and they were only charging like the same price as us. They were charging like $37 a month, but it's because they were on the military base. They're like a subsidized program, so like they're a lot cheaper than a real gym. I'm like, I'm just a purple belt. I can't charge more than a black belt, but then as time went on, I started charging more and more. And even though it's still purple belt and a brown belt, and it didn't make a difference. It didn't make a difference. There's a black belt because we had a better product.
Well, I knew I'd like you right along because I came and trained for a month, and then I remember messaging you and saying, I can't afford to train anymore. I'm sorry. I'll come back when I can, if I can. And you said, can you mop a floor? I said, yeah. You goes, and then you said, yeah, well, then you got a membership. Don't worry about it. And that was the biggest thing for me. I mean, my God, I still thank you to this day for that, because I would not be where I am in my life without the gym and you being kind like that.
Yeah, no problem. And, it worked out great for both of us, because I always hated cleaning, right? And making sure someone, it's just great having someone make sure the gym is clean, and you do a great job of that.
Thanks.
And just in general, like a lot of people, when they can't afford a membership, this or that, I'll always try to extend some sort of like kindness to them, some sort of, leniency, because I just want people to train. And I know, things happen in people's lives, and things, life's hard, and I don't want to be like all about the money. I don't ever want to nickel and dime people. And I think that because I never nickel and dime people don't really nickel and dime me. Like, still, like, I have just once in a while someone that's they'll kind of nickel and dime me a little bit, for whatever reasons. And I never like it, because I never do that to anyone else.
I think it really shows when you need help, like say when you moved or whatever, everybody would show up. We all really respect you, because we know you're not in it just for that. You want to see us all progress. Yeah,
exactly. And that's just so great. I think extending kindness to people not only is just a great thing to do in general, but it also has like a silver lining, or like additional benefits of people doing nice things for you. So not that that's the reason why I be nice to people, but it's just I think that is the way to get ahead in life, is to be nice to everyone, and they'll want to be nice to you, and together everyone achieves more, right? It's a team.
I agree.
All right, guys. So I hope you liked episode 3 of the Jordan Talks Jiu-Jitsu podcast. And this podcast is brought to you by Rev Gear. That's the shirts me and Joey are wearing. And Mike's not wearing his, but it's all right. No big deal. But yeah, you can get 10% off by using discount code Jordan 10. And they got a lot of nice rash guards too. Like, I wear their rash guards because I like them, not because I have to or anything like that. Like, I really like Rev Gear. So yeah, make sure to check them out, and we'll see you guys next time.